3-eye atlas. More likely a spaceship than a comet? Wow. Pretty wild when you think about it, especially with the timing and the release of this news. Now, if you go back a few weeks ago, I was one of the first people to report on the white paper that Avi Loeb put together, the Harvard professor, talking about the characteristics of this incredible interstellar object that makes it appear to be potentially some type of alien spacecraft. Well, the claims keep getting more intense because now a recent paper that came out by Avi Loeb says, does 3-eye atlas generate its own light? And there's also talks of it being a nuclear powered spacecraft. So it is pretty weird. It does have a strange shape to it compared to other comets that I've seen. But I'm not an astrobiologist or astrophysicist or, well, anyway, just let's look at the papers. Let's look at the papers. Let's look at the latest information, and maybe we can come up with an idea. Could this potentially be some type of alien spacecraft? I mean, it's cool to think about. Invasion of the body snatchers, Independence Day. Are they going to be friendly? Are they going to be scary? Are we going to have to assimilate to the Cylons? Are we the Cylons? That's for a whole other podcast. But let's get into this. Even News Nation article just came out. Comet 3-1 Atlas could be nuclear powered. Harvard scientist says. They're talking about Avi Loeb. So basically, the discovery of 3-eye atlas, the third confirmed interstellar visitor to enter our solar system, has reignited the debate of whether some of these mysterious objects could be artificial space aliens, spacemen and women, or just comets, interstellar comets. Well, let's look at the papers. And also want to let you know, yesterday I did an awesome interview with Leo Walton, Captain Leo Walton, retired military forensics investigator, and we went deep into the pyramid phenomena. These pyramids in Egypt, could they potentially be 30,000 years old? Yeah. And were they used potentially for terraforming the Earth? Yeah. His data is incredible. So you want to go watch that in full on our Patreon page. And if you're looking for EMF protection, we have EMF protection from head to toe at tinfoilcap.co. This is actually an EMF liner. You can see right here, an EMF liner. And these have two different sides to them. So you've got different fabrics that will block the lower frequencies as well as the higher frequencies. And you can wrap these around electronic devices and then put an elastic band around it. You can put them under your hats. They're awesome. They're on sale right now, tinfoilcap.co. They work. They block EMF radiation. We can show you the videos with the measuring devices. So they're pretty cool. Now, there's certain frequencies that they block and certain frequencies that they don't block. And that's why we got these that have the two different fabrics, because they will block lower frequencies and higher frequencies. Okay, tinfoilcap.co. Let's get into this. Here we go. Buckle up, Buttercup, because I got something to say. News Nation, Comet 3-1 Atlas could be nuclear powered, Harvard scientist says. The Harvard scientist raising concerns about the incoming comet 3-eye Atlas or 3-1 Atlas, namely that it could be some kind of alien spaceship sent to our solar system. Well, this is from Avi himself. This is from his medium.com account. You should actually check it out. He's got some great articles on here. So just Avi Loeb, medium.com. Does 3-1 or 3-eye atlas generate its own light? The best image we've seen so far of 3-eye atlas was obtained by the Hubble Space Telescope. This is from July 21st. This is the image right here. And we've got more detailed images. We've got more details on this image where we zoom in, and we'll get to that in a minute. The image shows a glow of light, likely from a coma, ahead of the motion of 3-eye atlas towards the sun. There is no evidence for a bright cometary tail, and you'll notice that. You can see right there, there isn't your typical cometary tail, which is the first thing that I thought was interesting. In the opposite direction. So this glow was interpreted as evaporation of dust from the sun-facing side of 3-eye atlas. Figure 3 of the paper, which we'll click on right here. Let's go down to figure 3. think this is it right here. You've got the image of Atlas showing diffuse asymmetric emissions to the northwest. The same image contoured with scale bar and direction arrows shown. The yellow and green arrows mark, respectively, the projected negative heliocentric velocity vector of the projected anti-solar direction. The bulk of the dust is sunward of the nucleus. Very interesting. But when we go here, let's read the abstract. At this early stage of its passage through our solar system, 3I Atlas, the recently discovered interstellar interloper, has displayed various anomalous characteristics determined from photometric and astrometric observations of 3I Atlas, and hypothesize that this object could be technological and possibly hostile, as would be expected from the dark forest, resolution to the Fermi paradox. We show that 3I Atlas approaches surprisingly close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter with a probability of 0.005%. Furthermore, the low retrograde tilt of 3I Atlas orbital plane to the ecliptic offers various benefits to an extraterrestrial intelligence, since it allows the object access to our planet with relative impunity. Think about that for a minute. That's very important because the eclipse by the sun from Earth of 3I Atlas at perihelion would allow it to conduct a clandestine reverse solar abirth maneuver, an optimal high thrust strategy for interstellar spacecraft to break and stay bound to the sun. An optimal intercept of Earth would entail an arrival in late November, early December of this year. Also, a non-gravitational acceleration of 5.9 times 10 to the fifth astronomical units a day, normalized at 1 astronomical unit from the sun, would indicate an intent to intercept the planet Jupiter, not far off its path, and a strategy to rendezvous with it after perihelion. So basically, it's saying this orbit, it's going to be so close to several planets that it could actually study and analyze, get imagery. Lee Wilbarger's calling me right now. Hey, Lee, I'm doing a live stream. How you doing, man?
We need to go to Nevada in the coming months.
Oh, yeah. Let's go.
Okay. You're not going to believe. I'll send it to you. I think talk about it if you're doing a live stream, but you're going to freak out when you see this.
That's what I'm talking about. Okay.
Think Terminator.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Liquid metal robots?
No. Being able to whip its arm out and shoot you at 100 yards.
Okay. Yes.
In rapid succession. So have a good day. Call me when you're free.
KLW World News, ladies and gentlemen. You can see him on Rumble. All right.
Yep.
We'll talk soon. Thanks, Lee. Good to hear from you. You too. Bye. I was with Lee at Area 51 for a few days. We had a blast out there. We had F-15s flying over us low and then coming back and waving at us. It was so cool. We found several entrances. We were out there with an awesome gentleman that, dang it, he's German. The FBI raided his house. Really nice guy. He's Dreamland Resorts on YouTube. He's got a cool YouTube channel. But anyway, that's for a whole other podcast. We'll get into that shortly. So basically what this is saying is the orbit of 3I Atlas is such that it's getting close to several planets. Here, let's go look at it right now. And based upon how close it's getting to these planets, it would be a perfect, it's the perfect orbit to scan planets, do recon and observations, and get away with it. Do it clandestinely. So my question to you is, do you think this is artificial or do you think it's natural? I mean, it's 50-50 right now. You can't prove it isn't. You can't prove it is. There's good data that suggests it's artificial. And then the traditionalists are saying, no, we're looking at the data sets and the amount of dust allegedly and ice that's evaporating from the object, and it appears to be normal. You could say it's swamp gas from Uranus. Drum roll. So look at this. It's coming in. Look at how close. It gets super close to Mars. flyby of Mars, close to Venus, really close to Jupiter, and it's hauling at about 130,000 miles an hour, 120 to 130,000 miles an hour. It's going to be getting faster. Here's the path you can see. Okay, so this one right here, let me do a zoom in. Check this out. And I want to give credit to David Sarita for this one. I can find it here. Stand by. Where'd it go? Here we go. Pull up. Yeah. So this image right here, David Sarita he did something to where he was able to, I mean, it looks like an egg yolk, doesn't it? It looks like somebody's getting ready to crack an egg. This is your brain. This is your brain on eggs. Very bizarre. So anyway, I don't know what you think, but I think it's pretty cool. And then I was looking at some other data. We'll look at all the images real quick because I've got some images that I can show. Pull these up. All right. What the hell? This is Hubble, and then the background stars. Look how circular that is, though. So, Oumuamua, 2017, no coma, strange acceleration. Loeb suggests it's a light cell. Then Borisov in 2019. Some say classic comet, no mystery, but it was interstellar. Atlas 2025. Kind of it looks kind of like a comet, but it's more spherical. The light signature could be engineered. Some say dusty comet, others engineered probe. Now, I would like to remind you, though, and this was recently, they admitted this not that long ago in a report that I think Arrow conducted, that there have been various, not famous people, but people that would be considered very popular, certain teachers, professors, scientists, and other high-ranking that are a part of this. It's almost like a role play, like live action role play, like dive into what it would be like if there was an alien invasion. Let's look at the possibilities. Let's share the ideas instead of saying nothing's alien. Let's now consider the possibility that everything we see in the sky is alien. I'm using that as a metaphor, but there was a big change in the media several years ago, and I noticed that certain professors and teachers and people that you would look up to typically because of their profession, they're coming out and saying aliens could be real. So when you follow these paper trails and you do the research on these different projects that the military has been involved in, the Department of Defense and other defense contractors, it really makes you question the narrative of the news and the media compared to disclosure and official disclosure. So like you can see right here, Arrow, and also to think that only $22 million has been allocated for UFOs over several years. That's not a lot of money, considering how much money the military has, how much they spend on certain projects. 22 million a year for 5 years to research UAPs. That's not much. And you probably noticed that it went from flying saucers in the late 40s to now it's all spheres. So notice how things have changed. We don't read about flying saucers anymore. It's more about these metallic spheres. And the Buga sphere, the Buga sphere, whatever, all the stuff that I've seen on that, it seems like absolute nonsense to me. There could have been something initially picked up that was an anomaly. So the cleaners were able to get in there and muddy the waters and come up with this Buga sphere that looks like an art project. I mean, it doesn't look like an alien probe to me. But regardless, because I've seen these spheres before, folks. A few years ago, Kristen and I saw it at the daytime, Pagosa Springs. Couldn't have been more than like 50 or so feet off the ground, about the 11 o'clock position. We're in the car looking out the front window, just down the street from our house a couple of miles. Boom, it's right there. Then it's gone. And I say, oh, shit, I wish you saw that. She goes, what, that disc? And I was like, well, I didn't see a disc. I saw a sphere. She saw the same thing I did. We both saw it. We didn't have a chance to get a picture of it. But it was a really, and Diamond's partner, Leah, has seen a sphere out here as well, metallic sphere. But she described it a little bit differently. Now, I don't know. I'm not far from Dulce. So I'm just a hop, skip away from Dulce, New Mexico. And there's some super weird stuff that goes on out there. I mean, I won't even go out there anymore. So I don't know if it's alien or just weird government stuff or weird stuff outside of the government, but strange stuff is going on out there that, you know, I'll pass on. So this is just kind of one of those things where notice how there's this change in the media now. So back in I think it was the 50s and 60s, they were, the CIA was working on the U-2 spy plane that was a lot higher up than your traditional commercial craft. So a lot of commercial pilots and others were reporting these UFOs, and they went along with the alien hypothesis in the media for a long time so that they could hide the fact that they're working on experimental planes up there, spy planes. So now we see all these spheres and these spheres and tic tacs, potentially reverse engineered alien craft, potentially reverse engineered craft that was made here from thousands of years ago before major catalysm happened, and they were somehow buried and they were able to recover them. Where you would think if we had this technology, we would be visiting other star systems and other planets. And that could explain some of these anomalies that we see on Mars and the moon, the legit ones that we've seen, like Cydonia, the region of Mars. And there's a lot of just incredible anomalies that you can see on Mars that do not look natural, from satellites all the way back to 1976 with the Viking orbiter that they shot out there. Now they use the high-rise, much higher resolution imagery, and there's some strange stuff out there. And, you know, you'll also notice, too, that, and NASA's got caught doing this before with their Mars photos that they take. They change the sky. They use different lenses, so the sky itself looks reddish colored. And they do that. Like, I actually saw some images that were taken here on Earth from these NASA craft, like before they even launched, and they had that reddish hue, the same color that they have when they get to Mars. So it's like, why would you do that? Why would you push a narrative where you're showing all these images with the filter that shows it looks redder than it does and you know, you forgot to take the filter out before you even got to Mars. And, you know, anyway, I thought that was bizarre. I'm rambling, but some weird stuff out there. Now, doesn't mean never a straight answer is always giving disinformation, because they have a lot of valuable information that's totally legit as well. I just question certain narratives when it comes to off-planet stuff like Mars, especially the moon, and space and what space really is. It makes me think about Haim Shed coming out saying that we're working with Martians, but they're not ready to make themselves known yet because most people don't understand space well enough for spaceships. I think those are silly reasons not to disclose themselves, but very interesting to say the least. So these projects that they have kind of control the narrative, right? Oh, now it's all orbs. Now it's all spheres. Alien? Tic Tac? Alien? I don't know. Lockheed Martin? Maybe. Claims have emerged linking Lockheed Martin, specifically Skunk Works division, to the Tic Tac UAPs encountered by Navy pilots in the 2004 USS Nimitz incident. And unverified reports from individuals like Ross Colhart suggesting Tic Tac UAPs are human-made technology, potentially developed by Lockheed Martin, and they're on like their third or fourth generation right now. Multiple generations of Tic Tacs, and it's also speculated that Lockheed Martin could be legally required to disclose such advanced technology to its shareholders if it significantly impacts the company's share price, unless it's shielded by national security concerns. Well, duh. Yeah, well, national security is great because you can use that for a lot of different things. Oh, sorry, national security. Oh, I wonder how many lists are out there that they could use as, it's national security. Sorry. Anyway, that's for a completely different podcast. These have been reported to engage in active jamming and like stopping these devices that are coming in to try and shoot them down or capture them some way. Well, the electronic jamming is pretty incredible. And people have also reported time dilation and problems with the clocks stopping. Quite interesting. So let's go back and look at some of these papers. This is from Avi Loeb. Figure 3 of the analysis paper, which is this one right here, Hubble Space Telescope Observations of the Interstellar Interloper, 3I Atlas, shows a steep surface brightness profile of the glow with a projected power loss slope of -3, which implies a three-dimensional emissivity profile with a radial power loss slope of -4. Such a slope is steeper than observed in solar system comets. Together with my brilliant colleague, Eric Keto, we realized that the observed slope of -4 is consistent with an alternative model in which the dust outflow around 3I Atlas is illuminated by a central source. This model naturally accounts for the steep brightness profile since the outflow density slope of -2 is accompanied by the radial decline of the illuminating radiation flux with an additional declining slope of -2. And if you get a flux capacitor in there, you might be able to go into a DeLorean back in time. If 3I Atlas does generate its own light, then it would be a much smaller than expected comet or object. It would be a lot smaller than 20 kilometers. The reflection model requires a diameter of up to 20 kilometers, which is untenable given that the limited reservoir of rocky material in interstellar space can only deliver such a giant rock once per 10,000 years or longer. And he has calculations on that as well in this paper. So basically saying that there's no way, there's very, very small probability this thing is 20 kilometers. Last night, we held the annual soccer. Okay, that's great. You did good at soccer. I'm impressed. No, seriously, I'm impressed. But let's get back to the paper. First, I calculated that the luminosity of 3I Atlas needs to be of order 10 gigawatt, not gigawatt, gigawatt. Second, I realized that the steep brightness profile around 3I Atlas implies that the nucleus dominates the observed light. This must hold irrespective of the origin of the light. In other words, the nucleus dominates over the emission from the glow around it. The illumination by sunlight cannot explain the steep 1R4 profile of scattered light, where R is the radial distance from the nucleus. This is because a steady dust outflow develops 1-R2 profile, which scatters sunlight within the same emissivity profile sunlight would dominate the illumination in this model because a rocky nucleus would reflect only a small fraction of the solar intensity from a much smaller area than the 10,000 kilometer region resolved in the Hubble Space Telescope image. Another possibility for the steep brightness profile is that the scattering halo is made of icy particles that get evaporated as they move towards the sun from the warm sun-facing side of 3i Atlas. This would explain why there is no tell of these scattering particles. The required evaporation time must be of order 10 minutes, but it is unclear whether this would lead to the observed 1R to the fourth brightness profile. So the simplest explanation, or the simplest interpretation, far different from an explanation, is that the nucleus of 3i Atlas produces most of the light. That's pretty cool. I calculated that the nucleus cannot be a thermal emitter with an effective surface temperature below 1,000 degrees Kelvin, or else its peak emission wavelength would have been longer than 3 micrometers with an exponential cutoff at shorter wavelengths, incompatible with the data. At higher effective temperatures, the required luminosity of 3i Atlas can be obtained from a source diameter smaller than 100 meters. A compact, bright emitter would make 3i Atlas of comparable size to the previous interstellar objects 1i Oumuamua or 2i Borisov, making more sense than the 20 kilometer size inferred in the model where it reflects sunlight. So he's basically saying, or at least what I'm understanding of it, I could be way wrong here, is that it's a lot smaller in size. It could be nuclear powered, and the light that we're seeing could be from the nuclear output. Wow. So 20 kilometer spaceship, probably not. 100-meter spaceship, nuclear powered, that would make a bit more sense. And I think that's freaking wild. And I want to hear what you think about it. Wow. Ridge Runner, thanks for that. Actually, I didn't want to read that, but pretty cool. Pretty cool to say the least. Thanks everybody for watching. Hope you have a beautiful day. Hit that bell. Be well. Be excellent to each other. Question everything. That's what I like to do. Have an open mind, but don't have it so open that your brain falls out on the sidewalk. Remember, your thoughts can be used against you, and beliefs can be dangerous. And hit that subscribe button and be the change you want to see.